Welcome to Beacon of Creation, a weekly podcast on game design through the lens of Magic the Gathering. I'm Tim.
Hi, I'm zurishmi, or Eric Mecklenburg. I'm just an avid Magic player. I have a cube. I used to do weekly cube sessions with a group of people in Portland, but recently I've been pretty busy.
Yeah. I locked you into this episode before you got busy at work, so even if you haven't been playing, you've got years of playing your cube, which we're going to talk about this week. You've got kind of a just sub-vintage level power cube, is I think how you're explaining it to me, like high-end legacy power level. Is that right?
That is correct. I call it Legacy Plus. It has a bunch of cards that are banned in Legacy, so it's hard to call it Legacy.
Okay.
But it also doesn't have cards that make vintage vintage. It doesn't have power. It doesn't have the things that are so far out of the scale that the player who has them has a large advantage. And I guess the two bad experiences from the player point of view is one player has it, one player doesn't. The other is one player has it and draws it sometimes, and the games where you draw it are much more powerful than the games you don't. It feels a little weird.
I guess fast mana is the main thing that you don't have a lot of.
Correct. I tried to find that balance point of kind of fun. So I have Chrome Mox, I have Ancient Tomb, I have Mana Vault.
Okay.
They all have drawbacks. You'd be happy to take them in a vintage cube, but they're not the power.
So this is probably kind of modern cube, kind of a lot of stuff on the board, a lot of attacking, creatures matter a lot. This isn't
Correct.
like a super spelly cube.
I've jumped around with which archetypes are supported. I started modeling it off of the vintage cube on Magic Online. Often aggro is the thing you do, or just mid-range, right? The green creatures have lots of mid-range stuff, red white have lots of aggro. There's of course cheating big stuff into play archetype. A lot of that's still just fine.
And you've got pretty decent fixing too, so you can end up in the I'm 3.5 colors, but it's because my mana is good, but I'm still like sort of a mid-range aggro deck.
Correct.
Yeah.
In fact, I even as we iterated on it over a year or two of cubing, I went farther and farther into, man, it's kind of frustrating when your fixing sucks. So we now have double fetch lands and double shock lands.
Yeah, so a lot of this is people looking at the cards in the pack and saying like, okay, I am some of these colors, but it's flexible. If I can get the mana, I can play more different cards. So it's really on me to just like line up what are the actual good cards in this pack that are actually cards that I could put together, more so than like, I'm blue-white, I guess I'll just pick the blue-white cards.
Yeah, absolutely. As a chronic splasher myself, I love, pack 3, finding a card that's got a color I don't have. I'm like, sure, we can work that in there.
Yeah. And that's going to be pretty essential for what we're talking about this week, which is green-white Selesnya in cubes like this. Green. It used to be that Boros was the poor child that had no clothes, but Boros has gotten a lot of between Flage and Modern Horizons, and then kind of cube or commandery cards like Aer Lingus and the Phoenix. Like Boros is doing okay.
Absolutely. You have probably named 3 of the most powerful 2-color cards that they have printed in Magic in a long time.
Yeah.
And they're all in the same color combination.
Yeah, exactly. So what we're going to try to look at today is get a sense of where green-white is in cube. We're going to talk about maybe what some of the competition is. Maybe I named a couple of those cards, but we'll try to read them out for people who don't know all those cards.
Yep.
And then we're going to look at a whole bunch of submissions people sent in for ideas for just powerful green-white cards. But between all those things, I'm hoping that we kind of understand where green-white is and where it could go.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so why don't we go through... We don't have to go deep on these cards, but I'd like to at least mention all the green-white cards that you currently have in the cube. So this is the bar. If you're not at least this good, how could you get in this cube?
Yep. So my cube tries to be color balanced much more than many other cubes. So I have 6 spells of each 2-color pair. And on top of that, there's lands and a talisman. And those, I can list off these 6 spells. I would say 2 of them are good, to give you an idea.
Yeah.
Seraphic Steed, green-white 2/2. This is a card from Thunder Junction. I believe it's in the main set. It's a 2/2 first strike lifelink. Whenever it attacks well saddled, you create a 3/3 flying token, an angel token, and it has saddle 4. So 2/2 first strike lifelink for 2. Okay, not cube, not legacy cube power level, but you'd be happy to take it in standard or in draft. And then saddle 4 is a little steep, but you get angels out of it. That was kind of exciting. I thought I'd give it a try. It mostly has been pretty bad.
Okay. Replaceable.
Okay.
Okay.
We've got Knight of the Reliquary, 1 green white, 2/2 human knight. It gets +1/+1 for each land in your graveyard, and you can tap it and sacrifice a forest or plains to search your library for a land and put it onto the battlefield.
Yeah.
This is a card with a lot of history. It's been played a lot in Legacy. It's not that good anymore. The
Mm-hmm.
sacrificing only a forest or plains is a steep requirement, and a 3 mana 2/2 that then has to, go a turn cycle, lose its summoning sickness to do anything. Really, is a heavy cost. We even have a land archetype in here, but the land archetype isn't nearly as powerful as you'd expect in Vintage Cube because we don't have all the old border cards. We don't have Gaia's Cradle. We don't have
Mm-hmm.
Thorn Academy. We don't
Fast
have
bond.
Fast Bond Workshop. We do have a lot of other things. There's no depths combo because people were not enjoying 2 card combos, but
Oh, okay.
that could come back. They are printed. I do have them. Another one I tried out, Bright Glass Gear Hulk, was a new Gear Hulk from Ether Drift. Green, green, white, white, 4/4, artifact creature construct, first strike trample. When it enters, you may search your library for up to 2 artifact creature and or enchantment cards with mana value 1 or less. Field and put them in your hand.
Hmm.
This is a reference to an old card that I'm blanking on, so I'm going to go look it up. Ranger of Eos. Ranger of Eos was a 4 mana 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, you search your library for up to 2 creature cards with mana cost 1 or less and put them in your hand. So this is a little hard to cast. It's 2 colors, and it's a much better body, a 4/4 first strike trample. And you can get artifacts or enchantments as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen constructed decks around this, but
It's still not a big payoff. Even when you get all the pieces together, even when you have a couple 1 mana artifacts, and there are plenty of good 1 mana artifacts in the cube. I mean, Urza Saga needed things to find. We've got, like I mentioned before, there's Mana Vault, there's Currency Converter, there's Retrofitter Foundry, there's Shadow Spear, there's Divining Top, Skull Clamp. It really isn't enough.
the cost is probably also pretty restrictive too.
It is very difficult to cast.
Yeah.
Next up, I have Mirari's Wake, a classic, a boomer card that people love.
Boomer card. Yeah, love it.
Very much so. 3 green, white enchantment. Creatures you control get +1/+1. Whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana of any type that land produced. So it's a personal mana doubler, and it makes your creatures bigger. For 5 mana, it's a little steep, but it can be fun. It can really empower someone who's drafted a deck that really wants 10 mana and not just 6.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Do you see people playing that?
Occasionally. It's probably I'm the one who takes it the most.
Okay.
And then the 2 actually good cards in here. We have Torsten,
Yes.
founder of Benelia. 5 green white for a 7/7. When it enters the battlefield, reveal the top 7 cards of your library, put any number of creatures and or lands from among them into your hand, the rest of the bottom of your library, and when it dies, make 7 1/1 soldier tokens.
Yeah. It's like ETB draw 5-ish cards.
Yes. It kind of plays like Atraxa.
Yeah, yeah. This was Atraxa before Atraxa existed.
Admittedly, having it leashed up behind can be powerful, and I've seen this often used in sneak attack decks.
Yeah.
I mean, you want more targets anyway, but also you can sneak it in, and you'll almost certainly find you something else to sneak in the same turn.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So just a cool top end card, but it's not really a Selesnya card. It often goes in decks that aren't Selesnya at all.
Yeah. Blue-black reanimator. Yeah, sure.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And the last card is Arwen, Mortal Queen. 1 green white for a 2/2 elf noble. It enters the battlefield with an indestructible counter on it. So that baseline, you just get a 2/2 indestructible, which is really annoying. Some decks really can't deal with that. And in the most wonderful flavor of Magic cards, it has 1 mana, remove an indestructible counter from it. Another target creature gains indestructible until end of turn. Put a +1/+1 counter and a lifelink counter on both that creature and Arwen.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is her marrying and losing her immortality from the movies, of course, and the books.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the value is ridiculous. So you have an indestructible creature that you can then, for 1 mana, you can make something else indestructible and save it. And then you've gotten 4/4 worth of stats and 2 lifelink counters.
A lifelink counter on anything bigger than like a 3/3 is quite good.
Right. And I think Arwen does pretty well. I'm quite happy with the design. I think she is still the 7th or 10th best gold card when you looked at other colors. When you look at some of the most powerful cards that are out there, like 4th Aerlingus.
Yeah, you kind of want like each color pair to have something in the top 10 or top 15.
Yeah.
If a color pair has absolutely nothing worth playing, who's going to play it?
Yep.
Maybe we can also look at cards that like are gold cards that are maybe adjacent to Selesnya in your cube, the kinds of things that you might want to splash, or you might already be this color pair and try to dip into Selesnya. What are some of the like good gold cards in other colors that might go in a deck like this?
Well, that's interesting. Immediately I see Lingering Souls, which doesn't actually hold up
Mm.
as well as it used to, but it's a
Mm.
token card, and Selesnya often is a token thing.
Yeah.
2 and a white for a sorcery that makes 2 flying spirit tokens, the 1/1s, and has flashback for 1 and a black. So it gives you 4 spirits for 5 mana.
Another card that feels it's not Selesnya Color Pie, but feels like it's in the same zone as the new Glissa. The Golgari Glissa, 1 black-green, has first strike and death touch, so it's got like a lot of combat superiority. And when they hit your opponent, you get to do one of 3 great things.
Yes, this is actually in my cube. Yeah, this card is powerful. It's fun. It is similar to Arwen in that having always wins combat is frustrating to play against. If you don't have a removal spell for it, you're just like, I can't attack with anything. All my creatures just die.
Just drop all your cards on the table. I'm done.
Yep. I really like the modes that Glissa has. That drawing cards is always safe or always useful, but it can destroy enchantments and it can remove 3 counters from a permanent, which is just such a cool and varied mode. You can reset your own sagas. You can make their planeswalker worse. You can screw up lots of things. Track counters, artifacts and lands. Use them for things, and it really does a lot of funny stuff.
I'm kind of looking around and I'm thinking like basically every color pair it seems like has like a lightning helix or a terra sunder or fire ice or vindicate. Like everybody else has something to kill things
Which is
with.
interesting because white is a premium removal color in
Yeah.
Magic, and white itself has, of course, Path Exile and Swords Plowshares and things like that.
Yeah, balance. Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Board wipes. Yeah. Have we gotten a green white board wipe? There must be one. I can't think of one
I
off the
wonder.
top of my head, but what would that even do? Maybe we'll find out today. Maybe someone submitted one. And then maybe what are some of the like really premium gold cards? I guess I mentioned some of them earlier, like Fourth Aerlingus, which creates a bunch of creatures and makes you the monarch.
Yeah, right. Fourth Angus, I would put this at maybe the second best, maybe the best gold card in
hmm,
Magic. It's just so far above rate that it's
yeah,
ridiculous. It's
yeah,
X red white to make X 2/2 haste tokens. So it's
yeah.
a double fireball that also leaves behind board and also makes you the monarch.
Yeah.
Nadu, of course, is
Yeah, Nadu. Tell me about Nadu in a cube like this, because this is not like full on combo Nadu. This is something
correct.
else.
We do have lightning greaves, so you
Oh,
can
okay.
you can go nuts with it, but that's the only one that's that level. Most of the other ones have some activating ability.
We don't think of a lot of green white combo-y things, but if we see cards like that, that could be interesting. Like you have splash ability, you have the ability, maybe Simic doesn't have all the tools on its own, but it's going to pull in some other color or use some artifacts, like you said, some boots.
I think
Yeah.
one more card to call out as maybe too powerful, and then a couple that I think are right on the money for the power level I would love.
Yeah.
Psychic Frog is the one that may be too powerful. This is a recent card
Okay.
from Modern Horizons, blue and black for a 1/2. When it deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, you draw a card. So it's the right on the ground. It's the best rated video they've ever made. It doesn't cost 3 mana. It can hit planeswalkers, and then you can discard a card to put a +1/+1 counter on it, and you can exile 3 cards from your graveyard to give it flying until end of turn.
Yeah.
This combination lets it outmuscle all sorts of things that blue black should never outmuscle in combat. It
Yeah.
can hit the table on turn 2 and easily block a 5/5.
And Band Legacy. So this is your
Yes.
Legacy Plus. Yeah. I feel like Q people are starting to turn on Psychic Frog. Like, people are like, do we really have to have this card around?
I heard it described as another previously very powerful card from Vintage Cube, Minsk and Boo, Timeless Heroes, which I'll
Oh,
read in a
yeah.
minute here.
Yeah.
That Psychic Frog usually wins easily. Your opponent can Black Lotus into Minsk and Boo. You play Psychic Frog, you can block Minsk and you can or Boo, and you can kill Minsk the next turn. And that's crazy. Minsk and Boo cost 4 mana and is very good. So Minsk and Boo is the right power level, I think, or maybe a little bit on the high end.
Okay.
2 red green, Planeswalker, 3 loyalty. When it enters the battlefield and at the beginning of your upkeep, you may create Boo, which is a legendary 1/1 hamster creature with trample and haste.
So this is like not a plus or anything. When it enters, and
Yeah,
then basically if Boo's gone at the start of turn, he comes back.
correct. And then +1, put 3 +1/+1 counters on up to 1 target creature with trample or haste. -2, sacrifice a creature. When you do, it deals X damage to any target where X is that creature's power. If the sacrifice creature was a hamster, draw X cards.
You can make Boo a 4/4 instead of a 1/1, and then you can sacrifice one of your creatures to fling it, basically, but also draw some cards if you fling Boo.
Correct. And then The three cards I think I'm going to call out for good power level, very fun.
Yeah.
Bloodbraid Challenger, a recent addition.
Oh yeah, yeah.
This is remake of Bloodbraid Elf. It's 3 red green for a 4/3 haste cascade, so we got a little bit bigger, a little bit more expensive, but it has escape. For 3
Mm.
red green and exile 3 cards from your graveyard, you may cast it from your graveyard, and that, ooh, is this card awesome? I've not met a person who doesn't like this card.
Yeah, I haven't played with this one a lot, but you're just feeling like my mana creatures are all worth it because I'm going to get this guy down a turn or two early. I'm going to keep casting this over and over for my graveyard.
Yeah, it's very difficult to deal with. 3 cards is such a small cost. If you have some
Yeah,
fetch lands or cycles or whatever, you can just keep doing it, and it can hit
yeah.
4 drops. It can do big things.
Yeah, and this is kind of in, I would say, like, maybe not the haste, but it is in like a Selesnya adjacent mode where it's like a big creature that kind of like can continue to threaten, can continue to be on the battlefield, continue to do stuff.
For sure. I would also call out Fractured Identity, which is very powerful, but often does fun things.
Yeah.
There's a 3 white blue for a sorcery. Exile target non-land permanent. Each player other than its controller, which is in a 1v1 game, is usually you. That creates a token that's a copy of it.
Yeah. Kind of a mind control, but you get the ETB.
Yes, and you can steal a Planeswalker, which is rare for that sort of effect. You can steal, artifacts, enchantments, whatever. It's always powerful. It's never too powerful.
And this could be one of the 2 white cards you splash in like a blue-black deck or whatever.
Absolutely. Or a blue card splash in a white deck. You say, well, I could put this in here. Look what I can do.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we have a good idea of like where Selesnya is. There are slots available, I guess you'd
Absolutely.
say.
I would cut 5 of these in a heartbeat.
So we're going to start moving into all of our submissions. This is kind of unusual space for designers. Like typically when people are doing design challenges or working on their own custom sets or just creating cards to post on like the Custom Magic subreddit or stuff like that, people are usually aiming for fair power levels. They're not aiming to make the best card ever printed for a color pair. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So the target here is kind of unusual. Like we have to get above like 8 out of 10. We kind of want to get as close to like 9 out of 10 power level. And then maybe we could consider a 10 if it's fun enough, but we can't go to 11, right? If we go to 11, then we fail.
Probably.
You have to get as close as possible without going over the limit. Probably, yeah. You're open-minded. I like this.
It depends on how you scale. I mean, I have Nadu in my cube. Many people would say Nadu's an 11 or a 12, right?
Okay. Excellent. We're going to see a wide variety of cards, some of which might not even get to that 8 out of 10, but we're still going to respect those submissions and even think through like, what would it take for this kind of archetype or this kind of card to make it?
Absolutely. And as this, any Magic player who's been around for a while knows, it is impossible to judge a card. And we could be looking at a card saying, I think this needs to be a little more powerful. And then if we played it, it would be the best card in the cube.
Fair enough. Alrighty, so our first card here is from Larcent, and this is called Sigarda's Revelation, which is 2 green-white, for 4 mana for an enchantment. When Sigarda's Revelation enters, create a 1/1 white bird token creature with flying, then draw a card for each creature token you control. So that's the enters ability, and then it also has token creatures you control have +1/+1 and ward 2.
Okay, so this generally will play as a draw spell is the way I'm reading this. You get a token, but a 1/1 token for 4 mana is not what you're writing home about. And then it protects your tokens and makes them bigger. I like this a lot. I like the design space. Larson has specifically called out cards it combos with, and I would put these into 2 classes. It combos with things that make tokens, because then it protects them and makes them bigger. And it combos with things that flicker, because you can flicker this and get more tokens and more draw.
Yeah.
I would be really interested to play with this just as it is. I think it's interesting. At first I said it's a little underwhelming for 4 mana, but I think as a draw spell it makes more sense. And token decks, as a slight tangent, token decks tend to play like ramp decks there. You need things that make tokens, things that make tokens better, and lands, and that's a 3-part. And sometimes you end up with it not really fit all coming together.
Yeah.
And I think the draw spell really helps there. I also think that tokens really suffer, especially the more powerful cubes. They suffer from very efficient ways to remove them because they are tokens, which is to say bouncing generally is the way this goes. There's a lot of ways to bounce things, a lot of ways to flicker things, and they just vanish. Giving them ward is awesome. It makes that a lot harder to do.
Oh, okay. Ward 2 is in that sweet spot of like, it's beatable. if they have a 5/5 token, you could just spend the 2 extra mana to kill it.
Exactly.
But for this bird, even if I have something that bounces 2 creatures, I don't know, man. I don't know if I can pay for 4 extra of ward to bounce 2 tokens. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone who's ever tried to deal with a Cap Cannoneer knows that Ward 4 is a lot.
Yeah, and then ward 4 is like Cordo sort of hexproof.
Yep.
Yeah. So we got ward 2, so we got some protection is +1/+1. So the smaller token creators, like we talked about Torsten earlier, Torsten's dead and you have all these little 1/1s. Sometimes, in a couple turns that can overwhelm a defense, but if they get +1/+1, then that's kind of game over. And then Hero Bladehold, which makes a bunch of little attackers. Larson called out Essica's Chariot, which I think is like a fun card to play with this, because now you got 3/3 cats, and your cats are.
Yep.
You already have 2 cats in play. You make a bird, you draw 3 cards. Your Revelation is like this nice mix of like, putting a little material into play, putting a little size into play, but also just like keeping the game going. Selesnya doesn't really have a lot of natural card draw, and this is like a reasonably green-white way for them to get some card draw.
Yeah. There are cards throughout Magic's history that draw in Selesnya. They tend to do it based on creature count.
Yeah.
But I've never seen them be so powerful that they came anywhere close to a vintage cube.
Yeah. Alrighty, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up being a little bit weak and I wanted to make it a little more powerful, but that's, like I said, it's very hard to judge.
Yeah.
If you imagine drawing this one, your opponent's really dealing with all your threats already, and you're like, well, I get 1 guy and 1 card for 4 mana.
Yeah, 2/2 flyer to draw a card. Yeah. I'd be excited to have that in my normal draft deck, but maybe not a cube deck.
Yeah.
Alrighty, you want to read the next one?
Sure. Next from Auxiliary Otter, we have Serene Pact. It is a pact, so it costs 0.
Oh.
It is Selesnya colors. It's an instant and reads, you gain 7 life. You may tap any number of untapped creatures you control. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on each of those creatures. Exile this card. At the beginning of your next upkeep, pay 2 green-white. If you don't, you lose the game.
Whoa. Huh. Okay, so this is like I'm paying 4 mana, but I get to pay it next turn. Beginning of next turn. I don't get to play a land. So I should already have 4 lands in play, or mana creatures. I gain 7 life out of nowhere. Do you think that like just all out burn is like a concern for people playing in this cube?
Not really. I do really like instant life gain. If you look at all sorts of effects like Uro or there's a classic Undermine and Absorb, if you remember these cards. They're 2 different counter spells. One gains 3 life, one makes your opponent lose 3 life.
Yeah.
The life gain one's a lot better.
Yeah. So a little bit of life gain here and there on something I want to play otherwise. You're in favor of. But pure life gain is a little harder. The Serene Pack feels closer to the pure life gain side.
I think so.
It has incidental counters.
There's a couple cards in recent Magic actually that played in Standard. I think the most obvious one is Venerated Loxodon, which was 4 and a white for a 4/4 Elephant Cleric with Convoke, which uses your creatures can tap. You can tap creatures to help cast it, and then when it enters, it put a +1/+1 counter on each creature that convoked it. So similar to this, you tap creatures and they get bigger. This one Venerated Loxodon came with a 4/4 and cost mana up front. I expect that Serene Pact would have the same play pattern, which is that it's a little bit frustrating. It's often very powerful. You often can slam it down and tap all your dudes and have a huge board the next turn and win, but you're forced to tap all the creatures that you want to be doing combat with. And if that can be a really bad tempo hit in the wrong case, your opponent can just remove things that you just tapped instead of attacking with, and you've lost value. Additionally, Serene Pact being a pact, you actually have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And that means you can't play it early. Where the very best hands with Venerated Loxodon, you play it on turn 2 or 3 because you had a whole bunch of 1-drops and then you're just way ahead and your opponent doesn't have a way to deal with it.
Yeah. I guess thinking of some of the other packs, so this Pact of Negation is the probably most common one, or Summoner's Pact. 0 mana counter a spell, but you have to pay 5 next upkeep.
Yeah.
That's, I would say, more flexible than Serene Pact here, than this Selesnya card, because it stops a bunch of different ways from me dying. And I guess Pact Negation is like, you would still consider that to be very all in. We're in such a powerful environment that I need access to this thing that, like, is really dangerous for me to cast.
Yep. And if you look at both Pact of Negation and you mentioned Summoner's Pact, which tutors your deck for a creature and puts it in your hand, have a lot of history in constructed Magic. They've both been played a lot in Modern and Legacy. And if you look at the decks that play them, most of the time the goal is to not get to the next turn. It's not to pay the cost. It's to win the game before then.
Yeah. Whereas the Serene Pact, this is all about you getting to your next turn, right? Like,
Correct. I'm wondering if Auxiliary Otter's goal with the 7 life gain was to make up for the tapping, not to make this a life gain spell, but to say, hey, I can tap all my creatures in an aggro race. You can still hit me if you want, but you're going to be behind because I just gained 7 life, and now I have a big creature, a board full of big creatures.
yeah, it feels like this is the most of a combat trick if like you're the green white player, you're blocking, and then after blocks you put some counters on, but that's like a bunch of creatures attacking into a bunch of other creatures isn't going to be that common.
Correct.
Even in that case, +1/+1 is maybe not enough to fully swing that.
Just blocking. Almost every Magic player would be surprised how rarely blocks actually happen, how much the threat of blocking prevented that from ever happening, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
One last bit about Serene Pact. I think you could just remove the tap part, and it would still be not too powerful.
Just creatures you control get +1/+1 counters. Yeah.
Yeah, just put counters on your guys. You still have to pay 4 mana next turn. Yeah, you just paid 0 mana for a bunch of counters, and maybe that's a game-winning play. But we're in queue with cards that have game-winning plays often.
Yeah, that probably refocuses the card for me. Where instead of it being like when I'm reading this card now, the tap part is like complicated enough that I get really concerned that I'll be able to use it.
Yeah.
So my desire to pick the card is a little low because it's just like, this is a little too conditional. I'm kind of just like scared. I don't know. Whereas if I just knew every time I'm getting a +1/+1 counter on everything for 0 mana, that's the point of playing this card. Once in a while, it'll be good in a life race, but that's, not the main reason I'm playing it. I'm playing this because I know I'm going to be having 3 or 4 creatures on the battlefield. One of them's going to get blocked. I'm going to kill their creature. 3 of my creatures are going to hit for extra damage.
Yeah.
And I still have to pay 4 mana next turn, so I still take next turn off. But I got so far ahead doing that I can afford to sort of skip a turn.
Yeah.
But this is a cool card. I mean, the packs are like some pretty iconic cards, like Pact of Negation, Summoner's Pact are both like very, very well-known cards.
And the other packs are not slackers. They also do very powerful things.
Yeah, the other ones are a little less famous, but like I think are still very cool cards. Slaughter Pact, just like kill a non-black creature, is seen a lot in Commander and stuff. Pact of the Titan, I think, is like weirdly maybe the closest comp to this Serene Pact because it just makes a 4/4 at instant speed. So what's a good way to take less damage? Well, just creating a 4/4 out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So it's weird that we haven't seen riffs on it. Maybe because just the design space is so dangerous. Like you can't even go a little bit more powerful than this. You have to kind of stick to the power level of the packs just for competitive play reasons.
I wonder if the thing I mentioned earlier, which doesn't like, which is that the people who actually do play them don't pay for them. They win the game or lose the game a lot of the time.
Yeah. Alrighty, but yeah, that's a very interesting card. We haven't really talked about packs that often on this podcast. So
yeah, I had not thought about them much, and you're right. They have not made riffs on them, made later versions, and they've revisited almost everything they've done.
Yeah,
I mean,
they mine everything.
How many ancestral recalls are there in Magic?
Yeah. All right, next up from Pat, we have kind of flavor-wise a little bit of a funny card, but we'll see what it's like mechanically. Hatsugarda, End of the Horizon. So this is an angel that looks like Hatsune Miku, the like anime Vocaloid.
Of course.
It's 2 mana. It's green-white for legendary creature angel. It's a 0/1, so 2 mana 0/1. It has flying. Whenever this creature enters or attacks, you may exile another permanent you control. If you do, return that permanent to the battlefield. And then it has landfall. Whenever a land enters under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature.
This is interesting. So it plays as a flicker spell to start, and then it builds up to being a powerful creature.
Yeah.
And it just says permanent. You can flicker your lands to trigger the landfall.
Yeah.
And it comes into play immediately. It comes into play untapped, so you can use this to get mana back. In fact, on turn 2, you can just cast this flicker land and then play a 1-drop.
Yeah.
Which seems pretty good. I like the more open-ended flicker. That's actually been a problem with the flicker archetype, is that a lot of the flicker spells have limitations. They only flicker creatures, for example. They only flicker non-tokens. And it makes it hard to build around, right? You have Philia, Exuberant Shepherd, is a pretty recent card that's very
Yeah.
powerful and can flicker any, I think it says non-land.
Yeah. Any non-land. Yeah.
But it makes you say, oh, well, I got this cool enchantment I want to flicker. That I should put this in the cube. And then you're like, well, none of the other flicker spells work with it.
Yeah.
Or Flicker
Yeah.
Wisp can flip over flip lands, which is really cool.
Yeah.
You can play it as a land, flip it into a big creature, whatever it is. None of the other flicker spells can do that.
So this Hatsugarda flicker is different, but maybe in a similar flicker power level. Maybe not the whole card, but the same flicker power level as Philia. Philia can flicker any non-land, including your opponent's stuff. This can flicker anything you control, including lands. So you get a pretty open-ended, set of targets that you can use and set of combos that you can use with this card.
Yeah. The other part of that flickers tend to either return at end of turn or return immediately, and they really are about half and half.
Yeah.
And that makes it a little awkward to remember which ones are which, and they have their own pluses and minuses. The fact that you can only target your own permanents means that you want it back immediately. That's just better. It also means that it's much better with planeswalkers. Philia can flicker your planeswalkers to reset them, but you don't get to use them that turn.
Oh, because it comes back into step. Yeah.
Yeah, immediately just trigger it again. Get all your loyalty back into their use. I think this card's really, really powerful. It reminds me of a couple other cards in Magic's history that on the front do something in the short term. They produce mana, they give you some value.
Yeah.
And then if you keep them around for a few turns, they get big.
Yeah.
And that isn't the primary mode, but it means that it actually is useful late in the game. It is useful if it sticks around for a few turns. And I like that a lot. I think that's a good design. It makes, it feels really bad to draw your land worlds on turn 10, or to have land worlds that was in play since turn 1 and still around turn 10, where you're just like, this does nothing. It's just a 1/1. I've got 17 lands in play.
Yeah. You don't really want to kill this right away if you're the opponent, because you're like, it's a 0/1. They're like a big creature deck. I got to be killing their 5/5s. But it does a lot of stuff. So
I'd also call out attack triggers. I love attack triggers because they make you attack. They make combat happen.
Yeah, yeah. This is enters or attacks. And, the first time it attacks, it might have 0 or 1 power, but you could also be playing multiple lands somehow or fetch land to landfall this a couple times. So each time you landfall, it gets bigger and bigger. Over the course of 3 or 4 turns, it could easily get 3 or 4 power and need to be answered. Yeah, so very flexible. This is like I think maybe like a really spiky card. This is a card where I would like to think harder than my opponent and maybe win because I thought harder. Like Hatsugarda really asks you to like plan out your deck so that you have enough targets. It like rewards like your sequencing when you play different cards. And maybe that makes it even more appropriate for a cube like yours where you're really trying to create that like cool competitive environment with a lot of different plays and different gameplay each time you play.
Yeah, I think that the synergies are one of the most rewarding and fun parts of Magic. Trying to drop pieces all fit together and feeling really clever that they make a powerful engine.
Yeah. It
might be too powerful. This is definitely I wouldn't be surprised if we put it in the cube for a few weeks and we're like, wow, this is a lot. We need to tone this down a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm excited, and it was probably just awesome.
All right. Yeah, that was a real hit of a card, and I feel like it dances right in that like 9 to 10 power level zone.
Yeah, absolutely. Next, we have Crafted Lava is True, who gave us Verdurous Greenhouse. Green, white, white for an artifact. Whenever an ability of a permanent you control with counters on it is triggered or activated, copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. Tap Proliferate, which is to choose any number of permanents and or players, then give each another counter of each kind already there.
All right. This screams Giga Commander card to me. All the Commander players want to play this one, but can we find enough pieces in this cube to make this card work?
Yeah, I'm just like, what does this do? I have to go start looking at cards to figure it out. I mean, Tap Proliferate on a 3-mana card is exciting. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Proliferate is one of those mechanics that is interesting, but they were careful when they first added it and made all the cards pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And in Vintage 2, that would be fine. You get a couple counters, and it just makes more counters. Awesome. Things with counters on them, this doesn't put counters in the first place, and then it...
I guess this is not +1/+1 counters, so any kind of counter. So this makes all your Planeswalkers abilities copied because it's activated abilities as well.
Ooh. Oh, that's... Yeah. Doubling Planeswalkers is exciting. I'm looking at the green-white right away, and Arwen can now marry 2 people at once, which is
2025.
Exactly. If you get Grizzly Bill and Psychic Cub, you can put counters all over the place.
I was looking at Hex Drinker, the like level up snake. You pay for
Sure.
one level up, you get 2 counters. That's kind of silly.
Yeah, that's powerful. One of my favorite recent cards, which has fallen off a little bit in the actual constructed play, but
Yeah.
it does some really cool things, is Springheart Nantuko, the one in a
Oh
green
yeah.
bestow creature that can make copies of things. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's hard to get on a counter on it while it's an enchantment.
Hmm.
But if you play it as a creature, you'll get a lot more insects out of it.
That card's always like so complicated to me. Like it was part of the Nadu era, but like when you're playing it not in Nadu, like I'm always thinking hard when I have to play with that card.
I kind of see it as a clone. There's a space of like Timmy clones, the clones that cost like 8 or 9 and make more than one clone.
Yeah.
There's the one that makes 5 copies, right? Replication. And there's a 6 mana Simic one that can make a copy every turn.
Yeah.
And these cards are fun, but they're just so expensive that you don't actually get to play them unless you're probably playing Commander.
Yeah.
And that, a low power Commander at that. But this, for only 2 mana, you actually get some of that effect. Yeah, it costs you mana over turns, but if you put it on Pyroglyph, you make a copy of Pyroglyph, and then at the second copy of Pyroglyph, your opponent's probably dead. The Pyroglyphs do a lot of damage.
All right. I believe Nantuka is okay. It's just my brain's not big enough usually to play it correctly.
With Greenhouse, I'm a little worried, as you said, it's a synergy card, and it requires other pieces to do anything at all. I don't currently have that big of a +1/+1 counter synergy. If you got Bill and Psychic Cub, you might be fine. But with other green cards, you might not have any counters at all.
Probably about half of your white 2-drops have counters, because I'm looking at like well, we've got a Johnny, obviously, but then we've got Intrepid Adversary, Jackrabbit, Lion Sash, Luminarch Aspirant, Felia,
Yeah.
Securitron Squadron.
And Securitron Squadron does it too, you're right.
I don't know that all these cards would go in the same deck, but this card, this greenhouse is probably going to be a 14th pick, but maybe the person who actually plays it just is laughing the entire time because they're just doing crazy things.
Yes. I'm really a big fan of the cards that don't do anything on their own. And you look at them and say, how do I make this do something?
Yeah.
And but they actually can, in the right case, can really do something powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Essence Reliquary. It's from Modern Horizons 3, which enables it to be a little bit of a goofy card and not break a format that's difficult for new players. They don't care. It's Modern Horizons 3. It's 2 and a white for an artifact, an uncommon, so it showed up in Draft a Modern Bout. And it has tap, return another target permanent you control, and all auras you control attached to it to their owner's hand. Activate only during your turn. Because the only thing it does is bounce your own stuff.
Only during your turn. Instant speed, but only during your turn.
So it doesn't really save stuff from removal if your opponent just wants to kill things on their own turn. But it synergizes with so many things, and on the surface, it's just a very expensive way to get value. You return a creature and play it again, you get the trigger, come into play trigger. But it does all sorts of goofy stuff, and I drafted it a bunch of times and tried to make it powerful, and I had one opponent who really, really outdid me with it and got so much value out of this card.
Yeah, so this is like an interesting niche for you.
Yes.
The greenhouse that we're talking about has 2 abilities, both of which feel weird in the same way that Essence Reliquary is weird. Like Proliferate, we know to be a good ability, but can it carry a whole card? This doubling ability, can that carry a whole card? So this is a little more of a puzzle. This is, look at the person who's already played this cube 10 times and wants to do something a little weird, sees this and is like, oh, I have a couple things.
If I have a cube where you look at your first pack and you're like, how do I make any of these cards do something good? This is great for me. I love this. Ideally, it's even more complicated than, combine it with this one other card. It's like you need 2 or 3 other cards to make this do something.
The lack of standalone power is tricky, but besides that, it feels like you could do a lot of powerful things with it, which is, yeah. Crafted's comment in here is kind of in line with that. Maybe they saw this coming, where there's some counters going on, but a +1/+1 counter synergy isn't near the power level. I intend to fix that by going overboard and synergizing with all counters in bold.
Yep.
Yeah.
I could imagine a version of this where the tap, instead of being a proliferate, is just put +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Which is probably too powerful for a 3-drop, but it might be okay, and it certainly then gives you a way to put counters on your own creatures to then trigger their abilities multiple times.
Yeah, even being able to put some sort of counter on one permanent allows you to then pick that permanent that's now a Panharmonicon, that's now a
Yeah.
Chandra's goggles or whatever it is.
What a good card.
Yeah, thanks for that card. Next up, we got a pair of cards from my friend Sam, who I told this about, and then they just got on their phone and started editing existing Magic cards. So we've got two of the probably dozen edits that Sam did to Selesnya Gold cards.
I love these. I love. There's something yeah, it's kind of silly that he's drew on some cards, but it also is illustrating a small tweak really changes the card a lot. And there's some really creative and clever ways you can do that.
The first one here is called Selesnya Charm, but more. Still costs green and white, so 2-minute instant. And then it has choose one. Target creature gets +4/+4 and gains trample until end of turn. It has exile target creature, no condition, or create a 4/4 white knight creature token with vigilance. So this is Selesnya Charm, but instead of +2/+2, it's +4/+4. Instead of exile a big creature, it's just exile a creature. Instead of make a 2/2 knight with Vigi, give us a 4/4 knight with Vigi.
Probably too powerful. It pushed a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe still okay. I would pick that real quick. Even in a deck that's only one of these colors.
It's still a choose one, so you're only ever getting one of these. This is not a 2-for-1, but this is your choice of great 1-for-1s.
Yeah. This is close. This might be okay.
If this were sorcery, I think all of these modes become pretty reasonable in your kind of cube.
Absolutely. In fact, that might be a perfect fix for it.
The potential here of this method of just take an existing card, juice it up, have some fun. This got a lot of emoji reactions, you can believe. So,
oh, for sure. There's a thing with charms. You want all the modes to be useful at least some of the time. You don't want one of the modes to be used 1% of the time. You want it to be at least 10 or 15% of the time.
Yeah, this does that.
And I think this does that. I think the pump would be the least used, but even then,
the pump is what's your life total? Oh, it's about to be -1.
Exactly. Yes, you blocked my 3/3 with your 4/4.
Yeah.
Should have put some more stuff in front of it.
All right. What's the other one?
So their other submission is Reborn Hopest.
Hopest? The most reborn hope?
It's green and a white for a sorcery, and it says return target multicolored card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And there's a card set to your hand.
Yeah.
I like this. This is the right power level. I think it has two problems, which is that it's a reanimation spell in not black. And it is just a reanimation spell. It may not actually be that powerful compared to something like Reanimate, which is in my cube.
Yeah. This has the thing you kind of want, which is a new lens on every card that you're looking at.
Yeah.
Because it's I can do something that would normally be hard for me to do, bring back Torsten or whatever in my green-white deck, but I can keep it all in one color pair by saying I'm going to bring back that creature, but not some of my other big creatures. I can't reanimate anything. I can't,
Arcana Cruelty or Crystal Brand.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to think. Arcana Cruelty, something like that. I can only get back gold things. Are there enough gold things that are big enough that you probably have Deathclaw, right? You probably have the Golgari.
I have the Deathclaw. I've got Atraxa. I've got Torsten.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Sphinx the Steel Wind? That would be an especially ambitious return.
It is in right now. I forgot about that. Yeah. Sphinx is great.
Yeah, so kind of like the last one, maybe a little bendy in terms of what could green-white ever just have? Exile target creature? I don't know. White's had weird 5-mana commons that just exile creatures.
I mean, white can do it for 3 mana, sure, no problem.
Yeah. And this one is the same thing where it's is this stepping too much on black? Or are we saying, maybe green and white between the two of them, they can do this?
There is something else this card there are two other things worth mentioning. One is that it says card, not creature.
Okay.
I suspect it would need to say permanent, but that's a editing problem. It allows you to do some creative things there. You can return Mirari's Wake that got stuck in your graveyard somehow.
Oh, okay.
I think that's narrow enough and hard enough to enable. There aren't other pieces to that. So if this is the only, if you try to build your deck around that, you're going to end up being sad all the games you don't draw this card. But it's still an interesting spot and a kind of nifty and very different build around that I would want to put into a cube or a set by itself. I want to add more support if that's not interesting. I think reanimating non-creatures is a very cool and barely used mechanic.
Yeah. There aren't like big hammers in your list as it is, but like all the planeswalkers, like Minsk and Boo,
Sure.
come on back.
Yeah.
Teferi Hero, Dominaria, come on back in, buddy.
If this is the thing I want, I can put in Kobolas or two in there, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
you're suddenly real happy. I'm a big fan of Kobolas.
Yeah, yeah. If we decide, hey, it's cool for green white to have what black's specialty is, otherwise I'm very happy with this card here. I don't know, the multicolor restriction really makes you look at all your cards in a different way. It makes you think, oh, I want to splash this card that's a little outside my colors because I can do something that's so good for me.
The other thing I want to call out is the reanimation or graveyard value archetype, which are two different archetypes that overlap a lot.
Sure.
If I say to you, what colors are those in? It's a
Yeah.
funny question.
Black is like the reanimate color, but graveyard value, we talked about like Bloodbraid Challenger earlier, which is like a Gruul card that's graveyard
Yep.
value.
And a lot of recent sets have had green black graveyard matters archetypes.
Yeah.
But that also goes into blue. If you think of Muldrotha of the Gravetide and a couple cards like that.
Yeah, yeah. White has had plenty of recent, like, bring back a couple little guys or even a ton of little guys all at once.
Yep. So where I'm getting with this is that it splashes into almost every color, and this is kind of a problem. And if you look at the really powerful reanimated decks in Legacy and Cube, you often just commit to colors for castability, not because that's where the best all the cards are. You say I'm going to do only blue black and just accept that I don't have Faithless Looting and Fable the Mirror Breaker and all that kind of stuff in my deck, or only red black and really kind of miss some of the blue cards like Psychic Frog. And then not to mention that those are not green or white, which also some often have graveyard cards. In fact, there's even some there's been a couple sets that have had obs on graveyard matters mechanics, and I think that's cool. I just think for a specific set, for a specific curated cube, you really want to put that in 2 or 3 colors and say these are the only colors that have it. You don't want these cards from the colors.
Okay. You want to keep it clear.
Yeah.
I can respect it. Alrighty, but those are both kind of like a fun thought experiment. Like we want to power up a card not by like giving it +1/+1, but by like making it much, much better.
Yes.
All right, our next card is from Red Bay, who submitted a Harvest Festival. This is green and white, 2 mana for an enchantment. When this enchantment enters, create a tapped Dryad Arbor token. That's that land from some set that I don't remember.
Future Sight.
Future Sight. It's both a creature and a forest. So it's a creature that is a land as well. And then the abilities on this card beyond that are creatures you control have tap, create a food token. And then another ability, sacrifice 4 foods and this enchantment. Search your library for a legendary creature card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. Whoa.
Holy. This is really powerful. My God. Oh.
Yeah, so this is like rampant growth-ish by getting you like a little Dryad Arbor.
Yeah, I see a little more like a Animal Elves, right? Because you get a dude that's a creature and can be killed.
Yeah.
And then it can all your creatures can just tap for food. That is crazy.
Yeah.
That's going to give you a lot of food real quick. And if you have ways to use that food for anything other than eating it for life, even for life, wow. And
yeah, interesting.
Search your deck for a legendary creature card, put it on the battlefield. So you can, if you play this when you already have 4 creatures, you just can immediately tap them, make food, sacrifice it, and go search up a tracks, then put it in play.
Huh. Like a convoke, but it's required to tap creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere between the like creatures have tap to create a food token and the sack 4 foods, somewhere in there, it's going a little over the line for me.
I'm still on the let's try it.
Yeah.
Put it and see how it goes. Yeah. You might not need the first part, or you might word that a little differently. I find Dryad Arbor to be a pretty awkward card for a number of reasons. And so it's basically the only card in Magic that's a land and a creature, right? And it has a bunch of weird exceptions because of how it plays.
Yeah.
My favorite one is Containment Priest, which says if a creature would enter and it wasn't cast, exile instead. You cannot cast Dryad Arbor. You cannot put it into play. There is no way to get into play if Containment Priest is in play.
But Containment Priest, you'd have to do it beforehand because you can't respond to a land play.
Correct. Yes.
So the flash on Containment, it doesn't matter. I'm on a tangent now.
I think the middle ability is the one that maybe needs like a 1 mana rider added to it. Something to slow it down just a little bit. Maybe that's too much.
Yeah. Food token's like the crappiest token. It's like famously.
Yeah.
But getting it so easily. Maybe it's not that easy because how many creatures do I really have? You know,
Yeah. What's
uh,
funny is I immediately go to artifact synergies, which is not what you're trying to do with this. But like, if you do this and
okay,
play with Urza, Lord High Artificer, then you
okay.
creatures control tap to make Mox Sapphires. Well, that's much better.
Hey, maybe that's what we're trying to encourage. We're trying to say, be that 3-color deck, manage your
Yeah.
mana, manage your fetch lands, that kind of stuff.
And I think
Huh.
the only thing that stands out to me, the only other thing here is the legendary requirement on the tutoring.
Yeah.
I think they've tried to move away from legendary as a all big, very powerful creatures are legendary because it
Yeah.
kind of ran into things like Caracas, where you're like, my reanimator deck or my Seek and Show deck just dies to Caracas because every single creature is
Oh,
legendary.
is Caracas in this cube or?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Caracas is one of the few cards that was taken out for like fun reasons.
Fun
It's just
reasons.
so frustrating to have your opponent have a Caracas and there's so few answers to it, and then you're playing Minsk and Boo, and you're like, it does nothing. This card is completely unplayable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But some of the big spells these days, like Archon of Cruelty, was famously not a legend. And then we have World Spy and Worm and Triplicate Titan. None of them these are legendary. And if those are your big spells, you don't want too many pieces that don't fit together nicely.
This is like if I have 2 creatures in 2 turns, I can slam the biggest legendary out of my deck.
Yeah.
And yeah, there aren't that many things to just slam right into play. So maybe that's like kind of okay power wise, weirdly, being
It
able to
kind
do
of
that.
hits you, forces you into the Eldrazi space, which is, that's a space. It's Eldrazi being pushed into play is famously not their best mode, but it's still very powerful.
In a world where I can get like 5 to 10 food tokens, what is my life? you know,
Right. And
that's the
Urza's the one that really pays you for having that many.
okay, okay, okay.
We don't have Academy.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't think there's any. I mean, you get a ton of life, but what is that doing for you?
yeah. White doesn't, or at least what I'm looking at, white doesn't really overlap with artifact matters in your cube.
The artifacts are all blue, and it's not very powerful because it's missing so many of the vintage power cards.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So weirdly, like maybe that food token, we just have to evaluate them as food tokens.
If you had Forensic Gadgeteer in play, which would make their activate abilities cost 1 instead of 2, you could imagine an aggro opponent being real frustrated that you're gaining tons of life.
Yeah, depending on how real the board fights are, food becomes more relevant the more it's actually about us having roughly similar creatures and us trying to beat each other to death.
Yes. It could go in a slightly different cube or with some other additions that enable you to animate them.
Yeah,
I think that's a pretty cool space. We had Eldraine card, a 2-mana 2/2.
yeah, the cookie.
Tough Cookie. I love Tough Cookie. The card was really good in just draft and Eldraine draft. But I even had it in the cube for a little while. Like it's actually pretty close to doing enough things.
It's a 2/2 that sort of brings it draws you a 4/4 almost.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a weird card. You can't say that it doesn't give you enough stuff to do. Even if your best legendary, what's like the worst legendary that could be in your deck as your best one that you'd still be like kind of okay grabbing it?
Well, that's interesting.
I don't know how to say that. Like if you're grabbing Arwen with this, like you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I'm trying to think like I don't just have a mega hammer. I don't have a Elish Norn to grab or whatever.
They've really pushed. Part of the reason why Caracas has started to get more hated by some people is that
Yeah.
a lot of the smaller creatures are now legendary.
Hmm.
Bristly Bill is legendary. There's Lelia and Gut, Inti. These are all legends,
Yeah.
and they're powerful. Ragavan's legend, but
No.
is that enough for this? Maybe. You're losing when you sacrifice this. The only part you really lose is the ability to make more foods.
Yeah. So if I'm thinking this is my Llanowar elf that I paid an extra mana for, and then I get a legendary creature in 3 turns onto the battlefield.
That might be very good on its own right. In fact, it might. It's a strange card, but it might play just fine if you actually put a mana value limit on it and said, legendary creature that costs 4 or less.
We both had like a really strong reaction to this like tap create a food token on all your creatures. Like that like triggered like some alarm bells in both our minds. Like
Yeah.
where we just had a knee jerk, like this can't be right.
It's so free.
Maybe I'm sort of backing into like, maybe it's it's not quite so offensive. I don't know. I think I'm still kind of weirdly offended by the tap crate food. I don't know why. Like, but yeah, interesting to think about. I don't know what conclusion to come with on the other cards. I felt like yes or no. I had a good idea of whether I want to bring him in. This one, I don't know. I'm still too weirded
Yeah, I want
out.
to try it.
Okay.
There's a space of card, and Wizards has definitely printed a lot of these of like it's powerful but kind of weird.
Yeah.
That the question is it fun? And I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
All right, next up from Wobbles,
Honk
we
honk.
have Farm. It's a hybrid Selesnya mana, so white or green. It has Convoke. Your creatures can help cast the spell. Each creature you tap while casting it pays for 1 or its color. So you have to tap. You either pay a white mana, a green mana, or you tap a white creature or a green creature. And then it has Enchant Basic Land. When this aura enters, create a food token. And Enchant Land has tap, add, double colorless.
All right. So it has Convoke. So it costs 1 hybrid mana. So either a green or white creature can let this be free. When it enters, I get a food, which does not feel that important to the rest of the card. And then it lets the land tap for 2 mana instead of 1 mana. So it's a ramp spell. A ramp spell that is maybe 0 mana. Kind of.
But it turns a color, presuming your land tapped for color mana, if you put this in a forest, for example, and then now you get 2 colorless. So at most it puts you ahead 1 mana. That is still good.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm just casting it, I got nothing synergistic to do. I'm just going to play my planes turn 1.
And it can put you ahead 1 mana right then and there. I mean, this is Utopia Sprawl and that kind of thing have a similar effect of like
Utopia Sprawl.
You can use that turn in the right setup, and sometimes you don't get to use that turn, but sometimes you do.
Yeah, maybe Wobbles is trying to solve for what's Utopia Sprawl, but okay to have in white as well. And by taking the color away, maybe we're making it more white.
I've had a funny challenge with ramp as an archetype.
Yeah.
Because I'm famous. I love archetype. I love ramp rather. I love getting big stuff in play, and there's lots of ways to do it, the reanimate and sneaking show, that sort of thing. But I just play ramp and growth, play similar effects until you have a bunch of lands, then play big spells and creatures. Great. I love it.
Yeah.
But mana dorks fit the same role, and there's a lot of very good mana dorks. Noble Hierarch and Delighted Halfling and Birds of Paradise. And having those and ramp spells in the same deck doesn't always work out well because the creatures often have some payoff, something like Crater of Behemoth or some, in other cubes, Gaia's Cradle, where you are happy to have all these little dudes, and the rampant growth and those kind of effects don't do the same thing. And then the third axis of that is the lands archetype. When you have exploration, do you want more lands from ramping or do you want more lands from playing them? And you need to kind of commit to one or the other. And I think the rampant growth effect is the worst of the 3, and so it generally gets cut. And this fits that same.
If maybe I'm not playing green at all, or maybe a green deck plays it once in a while, but I'm a white deck. I want to have a ramp card because you're saying that green could do better.
Yeah, I mean, I do currently have Nature's Lore in the cube, which is a search your deck for a forest put into play for 2 mana. And it ended up being not very powerful. People were kind of frustrated with it.
Okay.
They still have a lot of rate, and the fact that it's a hybrid card is very different from being a Selesnya card, right? It can go in a lot more decks. And putting this in a mono white deck, it kind of fits the same spots you'd want an Ancient Tomb, which is Ancient Tomb is always a fascinating card in cube because there are mono red aggro decks where you don't want it, and there are mono red aggro decks where you really want it. Yeah, and if you have the right threats, if you've already drafted, a bunch of things that cost 2 colorless or 3 colorless, this is great.
I'm trying to figure out, do we have to crack the code for why we're making a food token for this card to be good, or should the food token just be like that incidental sort of like, hey, at some point you'll gain 3 life in 5 turns?
And this taps to use it, and it definitely fits the flavor, right? It's a farm making food.
Yeah, there you go. It's a farm, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit tacked on there, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I know Wobbles just tested their phenomenal cosmic power itty bitty living space cube, where it's desert vintage cube, so you have to draft all your lands. There's like multiples of the mocks.
Sure, okay.
Stuff like that. So maybe Wobbles is like experimenting with how to use like multiple pieces of cardboard. I have this aura which does a thing, but I have a food as well, and I'm putting it on a land, and I just want a lot of little bits to work with.
I'm always surprised by how powerful it ends up being. The novice inspector or Thraben inspector, you're like, this doesn't seem that good, but it really pays off just having another thing come along with it.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we got from Kuyashi, we've got March of the Powerless, X green white for a sorcery. Search your deck, hand, and graveyard for up to X creatures with power 1 or less and put them onto the battlefield. Shuffle if you searched. Okay.
Love it. I love cards that either you draft them first and you're like, I'm gonna build around this, it's gonna be awesome. Or you get it in pack 2 or 3 and you're like, huh? What does this do? How many targets do I have? How much can I make this go? Power 1 or less is a pretty heavy restriction.
There's so many cards that are just like 2 power for nonsense reasons, and now those power creeped cards are out of the club. They don't get to play.
Yeah. Looking at white real briefly, the real standout here is Adeline because it's
oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really have 1 power, but it does and it counts.
Yeah.
Blade Splicer is a great choice.
Yeah.
There are you're right, a lot of things that could, have higher power. You'd be happy to put a Luminarch Aspirant into play. Let's see about green. You get a bunch of Mana Dorks. You get a ton of Mana Dorks with this.
Yeah.
I suspect there are, in Constructed, or if you put this in Legacy, there'd be some really nuts things you could do with it.
Yeah, because you can get like multiples of the same card and stuff like that.
You can multiple the same card, and there are, throughout the history of Magic, there are some cards that play very well with this that aren't considered to be that powerful. One I haven't acquired for the cube yet that is blue.
Yeah.
Is the let me find it. It draws cards based on toughness.
It's like a jumpstart card.
Sounds right. Yeah, Plagon, Lord of the Beach. 2 in a blue, 0/3. This card is surprisingly powerful.
Yeah.
When it enters, draw a card for each creature you control with toughness greater than its power. Okay. And for a hybrid Azorius, you can make target creature sign damage equal to toughness rather than its power this turn.
All right, I turbo ramp out this March of the Powerless, then I slam my pile of like Plagon and like 4 other cards, and I just grip another 5 cards out of my
Yes, you see, this is very powerful. This would be great.
And like a 10 for 1 or whatever.
I would love to have Plagon in the cube. It's watching it get played online. I'm like, this is great. It's very powerful.
I was watching that. I still haven't fully seen its reach its full potential, but yeah, it seems like a card. People have been playing it, so it must be good. Yeah, I can get my Psychic Frog with this.
You could, oh jeez, oh my god,
Frog.
I do worry a little bit that if I were to put this in the cube, it would be a little frustrating often that you'd have a bunch of creatures that don't quite work. Like you said, a bunch of creatures that have 2 power for no reason. Okay. And maybe I'd have to adjust other choices a little bit to make it fit.
I was kind of on the other end. I was thinking like I'm gonna cast this like every match, and every match it's gonna be good, and I'm gonna have the same experience every time. I'm just gonna get 4 great cards and just be so far ahead.
Sure. Maybe the fact that there is a negative to a card that plays the same every time, right? That makes games too similar. In fact, the companions had a little bit of this problem. So you might say something like, look at the top 10 cards of your library, or some limiting to make it a little bit random.
Yeah, because it's deck, hand, and graveyard, so I can't fail to find all this cool stuff that I want to do.
Right.
Which is appealing. It makes sure that like people will want to play this card. Like there's no getting around wanting to play this card. Maybe because, I'm under some pressure. I want to fire this off as soon as I can, so I'm only getting 2 things. So I have to get the right 2 things.
I can see that.
And it's only the top deck situation where I'm slamming it for X is 5 and then just emptying out my deck of a bunch of cool cards. Yeah, maybe I'm too pessimistic.
I like it. I'd play it. No, I'm curious what the most expensive card in Magic is that matches this requirement.
Well, there's that dumb 1/1 for 8 or whatever with Morph, but
Scorpial Egotist, yeah.
Yeah.
Terrible.
All right, so mana value greater than 6, power equals 1. And then we just sort by EDH rec and hope the EDH players have figured out. Jumbo Cactuar.
There's a lot of that's funny. There's a lot of cards that have a 0 or asterisk power that would technically be searchable, but are actually very large.
Oh, power 1 or less. Oh, okay. Yeah, a bunch of the cards that like I'm a 1/1 that makes a 2/2, a 3/3, and a 4/4 when I enter. A couple of those too.
Nothing too crazy here.
Gigantomancer's time to shine. The other thing I was thinking about is you just cast this for 3 mana and you get your Adeline out of your deck.
Yeah, which is already very strong.
It has like not a lot of fail case, for better or worse. It's good to play cards that can't fail.
Yes. You mentioned 2/2, 3/3, and 4/4. There are 2 different cards that do this.
It's too appealing a thing not to run back.
Yeah.
It's just a fun thing to put on a card. There's like a draft one that Return of Ravnica or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that guy. Tristani Summoner.
This is very easily like a appealing card. I think Kuyashi says that there are 56 cards you can hit, though 3 die right away. So 53 cards, let's say. Can't get anything over 4 mana value. Kuyashi is maybe like lightning focused on a card that is safe in your cube specifically, but is not generally safe, like you said, in like
Yeah,
a legacy card pool or commander or whatever.
for sure. There's a deep design discussion about the fun of making cards that would be powerful elsewhere or much weaker elsewhere, or reprinting cards in a new limited format where the players all have to reevaluate because it used to be bad, now it's good, or vice versa.
The old shatter thing. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Jared has given us Blessing Sower, green and a white for a 2/3 elemental druid cleric. It has the Crucible text. You may play land cards from your graveyard and tap. Copy target activated or triggered ability. You may choose new targets for the copy.
Oh.
What was right? Crucible effects have always cost 3. I've never seen one cost less. This is, I mean, for a cube like this, especially with my lands archetype being powered down, that would be fine, honestly. That would be cool. It gives you a lot of value off of something like fetch lands. And maybe it's more similar to Ren 6, which does cost 2 for the Crucible effect. That's not quite the same. And then copy activated triggered abilities just for tapping. I love that. That does cool things. Insane. It's powerful, but you have to do a little bit of work to get there. You have to have something else that it goes with.
Yeah, it's good. It doesn't say activate or trigger ability you control, so this is like a really hardcore onboard trick. Like
that.
I activated my planeswalker. Crap, I lose the game.
Yeah, okay, you know, I haven't seen that design space, but it might be a little much. You're right.
Woo. Jared here is really aiming at I'm making a card that's good enough. They even have in the description. Maybe it's a bit too strong, but I've seen one too many last pick Knights of the Reliquary. So they're like, I'm aiming for 10. I'm not aiming for 9.
Yeah. I think this is right on in terms of it's powerful. It may not be too powerful. There's a lot of powerful stuff in the cube.
If I'm going down, I'm not going to name all the cards, but if I go down the list of just white cards, works with the first card, works with the second card, works with the third card, works with the fourth card, works with the fifth card, works with the sixth card, works with the seventh card, works with the eighth. Like, it doesn't work with Containment Priest. All right, so we got to like the 10th card and we found one that it doesn't work with. This works with like basically every card between activated and triggered abilities.
Well, then the question is like, is tapping your creature worth getting a second?
Sure.
Protection from other runes? Maybe.
A second clue.
Second clue, yeah, probably. Yeah. But it's not crazy.
I think I just mean on like a pure compatibility level. Like we talked about the artifact a while back, the greenhouse, the crafted card. That's like if an ability of a permanent with a counter on it would trigger, and then I could proliferate. And that felt like, 20% coverage or 25% coverage on the green white cards. This is like 90% coverage on the green white cards.
Yeah. Do you know the card Go-Go Master of Mimicry from the Final Fantasy set?
Is that the blue one or the red one?
It's the blue one.
Okay.
It was 2 and a blue for a 2/4 with XX tap. This is a mythic. Copy target activated or triggered ability you control X times. You may choose new targets for the copies. I drafted this like 3 different times. I drafted a lot of Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
And it is sweet. Those are some of the funnest games I've had. And it was very powerful, but not too powerful. And I think that this Blessing Sower fits in the same role. Like, you don't need the mana, but you can't copy more than once. Copying your opponent's things, I'd have to try that and see if we need to add that rider in there. I'm like, it's a little silly. Your opponent tries to Oblivion Ring this, and you just copy the triggering Oblivion Ring, the Oblivion Ring.
But hey, if we're trying to get green-white over the finish line, get on Blessing Sower's back. It'll carry you.
Yeah. And sometimes when you look at something and say, wow, I've never seen a card that does that before, there's a reason, and they've already tried it, and it does something horrible or is broken in strange ways.
I'm personally partial to copying the second trigger of a Sidecat Cup every turn off of the same fetch land. You can also just be double fetching every turn.
Oh my god.
Because you play fetch lands out of your graveyard, and then you copy their activated ability.
Yeah, I'm turning my head sideways here. This with fetches is maybe enough on its own. That's a lot. Because you get extra lands, and then you're right, it just plays them back immediately.
I'm laughing a lot. I'm not laughing at you, Jared. I'm delighted by this card and its ramifications. It's like a really, really juiced card.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Uh,
All right, next up from Pat, a second submission. Earthen Force, green white, 10/10. No other text.
Just a big boy.
Just big boy.
This is Pat like tempoing us out because like they did, they put no text on this card, but now we have to think for 5 minutes over whether this is good or not.
I believe I read a discussion somewhere in your Discord about exactly how far can this be pushed.
Yeah.
And I think this is interesting. I think this card would actually be about right.
Okay.
The question is whether or not it's fun, not whether or not it's powerful.
Yeah.
Because some percentage of games you play this on turn 2, and your opponent just has a slightly slower hand, and it's like, well, that's stupid. I just lose the game because the creature has 10 power. But a moderate amount of time, it just dies, as green-white creatures do. They have a turn to untap. They can put a jump blocker in front of it easily. It doesn't do anything else. It's hard to really convert power into something useful. I did a thought experiment many years ago. More of a practical experiment. I was brewing up standard decks at the time. This was Return to Ravnica standard.
Oh, okay.
And I had the Selesnya pairing in that format had a bunch of very aggressively costed beaters, like Loxton Smiter, which is a 3-mana 4/4 with a couple upsides on it. And I threw together a deck with all these aggressive Selesnya cards, and I said, I'm going to play these very efficient creatures, and I'm going to attack, and I'm going to win. I got my wife and said, hey, let's battle, and she pulled out her Delver deck, because that's who my wife is.
Yeah.
And she murdered me. It was very one-sided. It was probably the worst of all the brews I had brewed in that format. And it was just creatures that don't give you value when they come into play and don't have haste are just not enough. They're too easy to get tempoed. There were so many little things she could do. She could block them when she needed to. She could unsummon them when she needed to. She was attacking with a flyer that cost 1, where I had to wait until turn 3 to play a 4/4. I think Earthen Force might fall into that, but maybe, as I said at the beginning of this, maybe it's just big enough that's okay. And it doesn't cost a lot, right? If it costs 4 mana, you'd say, well, in fact, they already printed this, right? There's like a 4-mana green creature that's like a 9/9 or 10/10. For 2, though, I want this. I want to put it in the cube and see what people do with it.
You're on board.
Yeah. Are things too powerful? Can we give this trample? There are a few ways to give it trample. Can we fling with Missing Poo? Sure. Missing Poo doesn't draw you cards, but it'll do 10 damage. I don't think those are too powerful.
No.
Took some pieces. I don't currently have Rancor. I do have Berserk. It might be a little too good as Berserk at the moment, but the pump archetype was an experiment that got, the cube was frozen in time right when I had that in, and it wasn't very good. It was probably coming back out again.
There's a couple, I think people are starting to play that more warp card from Edge of Eternity that doubles power.
Yeah, there's is it the 4-mana one?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I think the Vintage Cube's current, or maybe very recent, Power Matters, like Pump archetype, came out much better than the one I had tried to put in. I tried to put in one modeled off of one from a few years ago, and there's some cool stuff in there.
Yeah.
I thought Tifa was kind of a meme, but with fetch lands and the right things, Tifa can have a lot of power.
Yeah, I think you're playing the Harmonizer, which is the green, like the 4-mana guy. Oh, it's War for 3 mana.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
I thought it was less than that. That's like the one that you play first, and then you play Tifa after you're already deeper in the archetype, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, 10/10. I've seen this speculated also. How do we do vanilla-ish creatures in like multiplayer draft or whatever, like either commander draft or conspiracy or whatever? A big creature has like a fun value in multiplayer stuff, which is not quite what we're talking about, but in one-on-one, yeah, I think it's maybe a little more binary. Did my opponent have something to kill this on turn 2 or 3? No? Oh, okay. Well, they're just going to attack every turn.
And even if you have to put a couple jump blockers in the way before you can deal with it, that might be okay. It might be so big that like the multi-block is out the window, right?
Yeah. Death touch or bust.
Yeah.
How many death touches do you think you have in your cube? 2?
Oh man, not a lot. I have an Ophiomancer, I think. That would really shut this down quick.
Ophiomancer. Oh, you got a couple. Preacher of the Schism, Unstoppable, Slasher.
Oh yeah, look at that. Bargoyf has Death Touch, so did Glissa, we mentioned before.
Oh, okay.
Next up from your friend Tom, a card with no name. White green sorcery. Search your library for an artifact or enchantment with mana value 3 or less and put it in your hand. If you have no tapped lands, put it into play. It has plot for 1 white green.
So 2 mana tutor for a cheap artifact or enchantment, or 1 white green next turn tutor for an artifact or enchantment straight into play.
Yeah. And occasionally you could tap some mana dorks or something to get the 2 mana.
Yeah, it's possible, yeah.
I think this is too weak. I think this is interesting, but I think it is too weak. I think that you are losing on mana, right? You're either paying 2 mana to tutor, which, I mean, we have to want tutor in the cube. You're willing to pay 2 mana to tutor, but this is pretty limited on what it tutors. Or you're kind of coming out even, where you pay 3 mana to get a thing that costs 3 or less.
This is a card that is kind of all about the numbers, so 2 weak is like, sometimes with a creature you say, oh, it's 2 weak. It's like, oh, that's sad. But that's the whole point of this card, is whether or not it's strong enough.
Yeah. And we could absolutely adjust the numbers, right?
Sure, yeah.
The no tapped lands requirement is interesting. It reads too directly of, did you plot this to me? And I want it to be more interesting than that.
There were 1 or 2 plot cards that read the same way, so that might have been what Tom was going off of, is like, I'm going to follow the templating that other things said. Would you prefer it said, if you cast it for his plot cost or whatever? If you cast it for
Right.
exile,
Is that better? No, I want, like I said, I want to do something more interesting.
Okay. Make a copy of it.
Yeah.
Are there good things to get with this? Can I get my mana's worth? If I get a Palantir, am I happy?
That's what I'm trying to look at.
Yeah.
For 3 or less artifact or enchantment, I like Strolling Crawler a lot, but it's not that powerful. I like Palantir a lot, but it's something, the sooner you play Palantir, the better by far. Jite, you can get your Greaves or your Mana Vault. I don't think we have the most powerful targets in this cube. If we made it 4 or 5, that might help a lot. You can get the One Ring, get Eldrazi Monument, my favorite pet card. You can Golos.
Mystic Forge for your artifact deck.
Yeah.
It might be a fit in other cubes where the right card pool's there, but I think I'm getting convinced. I was actually kind of impressed by this card. I was enticed by it, but now that you've broken it down, I think I'm kind of coming over to your side.
I think if we've knocked the mana value requirement up to 4 or 5 or even 6, I think it would be pretty interesting, and I'd try it.
Yeah.
I don't have Crucible at the moment, but if you have a lands deck, this is a way to get your Crucible.
I think going to 4 is maybe 3 is what's on here, because there's all kinds of white things that mention 3 or less, and maybe that's what the starting point is. And going to 4 might make it feel a little bit different, but somehow 3 is not enough.
It's a weird space to have a lot of cards that have a certain phrasing or number on them, and then start to make something different. Yeah. The original Naya had a power 5 or greater archetype, and then later they've done power 4 or greater archetype, and it's weird to have both those in Magic. As a tangent about tutors in general, I've been surprised to learn more about them as I've played them more. In most of my Magic history, where I played competitive, like Standard, there aren't a lot of tutors in Standard.
Yeah.
As I've started building up the cube and more powerful and putting tutors in it, the more narrow tutor is, it really quickly gets to be not a playable card. Because you're putting mana, they're always mana negative.
Yeah.
And even Demonic Tutor, there are plenty of decks you can draft where you don't want to put Demonic Tutor in because it just doesn't do anything.
That seems like a stretch, but I'll believe you. I trust you. You have more experience than me, but
I think it doesn't do anything. It gets you the card you need at the moment, but the more powerful your best cards are, the better the tutor is really where I'm going with this.
Okay.
If you have a couple cards that really stand out or combo pieces that really want to go together, then the tutors get really strong. If your deck is just a pile of mid-range threats, the tutors are at their worst.
I guess I've just tutored for balance too many times to have a negative opinion of Demonic Tutor. Our next card is from James Dalton Bell. It's Verdant Garrison. It's a land with tap, pay 1 life, add green or white, then put a muster counter on this land. And then it has an activated ability, green and white tap, so 2 mana tap. Remove all muster counters from this land, Then create an XX soldier creature token where X is the number of muster counters removed.
Interesting. So you've got the Painlands base, which I currently have Painlands in the queue because I wanted some good sources of colorless mana.
Sure.
Or the Horizon Canopy,
Mm-hmm.
classic. And this is closer to Horizon Canopy because it doesn't have a painless way to make life or make mana, which means it's going to hurt a lot. And the payoff is that you get a creature. This hurt you for 5, and then you get a 5/5 out of it. I like the design. I like your lands giving you extra value. I do think it's weak. I think we could do some silly things to make it really much more powerful. Like make the ability that creates the token not remove the counters at all and just let you do it over and over again.
Because then you'd have to choose, like, do I want to get it up to 5 and start pumping out 5/5s, or do I want to get it to 1 and just make a 1/1 every turn?
Right.
Yeah.
And that might be a little pushed, and you might have to make it cost a little more to activate, but even at this point, that might be fine.
Because if I want to make 3/3, I'm a couple turns in already. Yeah, okay.
At 2 and tap for the ability, it has that same play pattern as Urza Saga. Of it, the way I think of it in my head is when a land has an active ability, it costs 1 more than it says because you can't use that land. So you're giving up 3 mana to make a creature.
Yeah, Urza Saga, you only get a couple turns to activate it, but it creates tokens that grow as you play more artifacts.
Right.
This is going to create a soldier that's whatever size it is right then and there. And you could do it for the whole rest of the game. I guess is the kind of card that this card could never be printed as a regular card to me because it's just so upsidey and like so miserable to play against in like a standard or a draft or whatever.
There's a few land answers in most formats, yeah.
Yeah, there's not answers to lands. Yeah, that's exactly why. I guess I can agree that this is a little weak or a little hard to use, right? But I think making like 3/3s, having the option to make a 3/3 every turn does feel kind of intense.
Too much. I do think that the life cost is very real, that the lands that hurt every turn and no other option really do add up over a game and have a big effect.
Okay. Okay. So you're thinking that because I started the game at 15 life now,
Yes.
that's why it's okay to, yeah. Okay. James is also maybe designing for a card that's like kind of like maybe printable or whatever you want to say, like like not trying to aim at 10.
Yes.
All right. What's our next card?
From Xena, we have Llanowar, I Choose You. Green and a white instant with Bargain, which is you may sacrifice an artifact, enchantment, or token as you cast the spell. And it says put any number of creatures with combined mana value up to 3 from your hand onto the battlefield. If the spell is bargained, the mana value is up to 5 instead. So it's a small show and tell, or closer to a Piper effect at your personal sided. Interesting. And it's an instant. So you can surprise them with here's my 3-drop or a bunch of 1-drops. I like that they can do multiples. And the bargain can really... This is cool. This is interesting. And I think it's right on the money for power.
Oh, okay.
At least my initial feeling with it.
Unless you hide your otherwise sorcery speed creature casting to the end of your opponent's turn.
Yeah.
And then say, whoop, I'm actually doing this. And then, it's 2 mana, but by default, it lets you plop up to 3 mana. So it's at least, like a Lotus Petal or something.
Right. And you burn a card for it. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, burning a card to get a mana. And then instant speed. So between those two, you're probably getting to a pretty good spot. And then bargain seems kind of hard in general, but maybe I'm underestimating or overestimating.
Bargain is kind of hard. I played a bunch of the limited format with it, and even in a set designed around it, you often were just like, man, I don't have a thing, or the thing I have I want to keep. It's powerful.
Yeah. Sometimes you'd have a food or a roll token or whatever, but that's in a format that's like infused with tons of those tokens.
Correct.
You're pretty likely to be giving up something real if you bargain this.
That being said, you can imagine the very high end of this card, which is you play an Inspector on turn 1 to get me into bargain, and on turn 2 you just put your 5-drop into play. And that's probably okay for this kind of cube.
Okay.
And fun.
It's the instant speed. I get to do a thing my opponent can't know what's coming, and it's on me to take advantage of that instant speed surprise.
And I don't see anything that costs 5 that's too powerful, right? The things you really want to sneak into play all cost more than 5.
So you're liking it. You got a Ash Ketchum here.
Yeah, I would put this in the queue for sure.
I have to think too hard to play this card. I'm too dumb a player to use this correctly.
I'd put it in my deck, and then I'd be sad when I can't bargain anything, but I'd still try
it. You just believe in people. You think, this will be the time, and I'll make it happen.
Yes.
I'm too pessimistic. Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's a great card. Thanks, Xena. Next up from Ken of Chaos, we've got But a Speck in Reality. That sounds like an Eldrazi card.
It does.
But a Speck in Reality. Green white for an instant. Exile target creature, then create a XX green elemental creature token where X is that creature's power. Oh, we're going all the way up to power level here.
Yeah, this is the best removal spell ever.
We got kind of like your fractured identity.
It can only hit creatures, and the creature you get is presumably weaker because it doesn't have all the text that the other card had.
All the abilities, yeah. But for 2 mana instead of 5.
Yes, and instant speed. This is very powerful. This might be too powerful. This is the first one where I'm like, this is woof. But I like it.
I'm missing either green or white in my deck currently, but I see this in pack 2. Maybe I'm picking up some fetch lands. Maybe I'm trying my hardest to play this card.
Yeah, for sure. How do you make it slightly closer? Do you add an extra mana? Do you make it a sorcery? I don't know.
This is like instant Chupacabra or something.
Yeah, it's the best version of that. It's instant, it exiles, so it gets anything.
Yeah.
And the creature you get is almost certainly bigger than a 2/2. And it costs half the mana. It's interesting, though. I like the giving you the creature.
Yeah.
When I first read this, I assumed the person who lost the creature got the token, and I was like, well, this isn't very powerful at all.
Yeah, like Apparition, Skyclave Apparition.
That's Skyclave Apparition, yeah.
I guess if we're saying, hey, we want green-white to have one of the better removal spells for some reason. I guess white already has 2 of the really good ones. Is having to also play green a bigger downside than giving your opponent 4 life?
Probably not. Maybe. I think the fact that it makes you a token is the part that pushes it over.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sword Splashers is very powerful, as every Magic player knows.
Imagine if this had existed, like they accidentally printed this in like Alliances or something.
Oh God.
And then just the entire history of Magic was different because green white had the best removal spell.
I'm imagining war states where you put in some large creature. You work hard to make some large creature, and your opponent just for 2 mana basically steals it, and you're like, oof.
Yeah, you'd fire this off on like even medium creatures. Like they have a Sentinel of the Nameless City. I'm killing that.
Yep.
Yeah, give me my 3/3.
You could put a limit on it. You could say exile target creature with mana value 4 or less or something like that.
Oh, okay. I guess the traditional thing in green-white would be a big creature, but you could also do the opposite. You could say, kind of like Apparition, you could say, hey, I get to murder little things, keep those under control.
Yeah. All right. The last card from Cord. Tailwinds, green-white enchantment. You may cast creature spells and spells from exile as though they had flash. Whenever a permanent enters under your control, if it was the second permanent that entered under your control this turn, airbend target creature or spell. And the rhyme text for that is exile it. While it's exiled, its owner may cast it for 2 rather than paying its mana cost. This is a brand new mechanic from a set that's not even out yet.
Yeah, for Avatar, yeah. I love this. Future proofed. Even if it had taken me another month to get this podcast out, like it's still gonna be.
Got it covered. So creature spells from flash. So you got the Allurn type of thing. And then spells from exile as though they flash, which is basically just your own airbend spells.
Yeah.
Which is actually one of the biggest constraints as I read it. Obviously, we haven't played these cards yet, but on airbending is that you have to play it at the normal timing. So if you airbend your opponent's thing, they have to wait till their turn to play it again if it's not an instant.
Yeah.
But getting 2 permanents into play in your control is an interesting requirement. I don't know that I've seen this before.
Yeah, because lands count.
There's a lot of 2 spells. And right. Lands, it makes it really easy, but there's a lot of things that generate tokens and a lot of ways to just get 2 permanents. So maybe this triggers almost every turn.
Yeah, I think that's what this card is aiming for, is that this triggers almost every turn.
But it only triggers once.
Yeah.
And it would be difficult to trigger your opponent's turn, but not impossible. In fact, a really powerful deck could do this your turn and your opponent's turn.
Yeah, once you've started rolling with Tailwinds, you have cards in exile that are flash speed, so you could.
Yeah.
It would be harder to have enough total permanence that you could do this like you just run out of cards eventually. But
You could do it more reliably if you're airbending your own stuff, but then you're the one that's paying extra mana, and you're the one, you're not stopping your opponent.
yeah,
But maybe you have things that are so powerful to trigger over and over again that this is worth it.
when this end, so let's like put aside how hard this condition is to meet. The second permanent feels like it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
So let's sort of look at like you get to airbend a thing every turn. That's sort of what or between your and your opponent's turn, you get to airbend
Yes.
a thing one per turn cycle, something like that. And I can do that. I can airbend target creature or spell. Normally, spell wouldn't be super relevant because you'd need flash creatures, but this helps you get flash.
This gives all your creatures flash.
Yeah,
So it even has a little bit of the counterspell effect in it.
exactly. So it's got a little bit of reprieve, the like return a
Yes.
spell to opponent's hand going on. But it keeps you permanent centric. You want to have everything in your deck be permanent. So you don't actually want to play reprieve, probably.
I agree with that.
Because at first you're warming it up by maybe like doing a couple things on your turn, getting a couple things in the airbend zone, and now you have like I assume airbend is face up. Seems like it.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So you've got this like smorgasbord that your opponent has to consider of like, okay, if I try to cast a spell now, they can reprieve it by flashing in their creatures. If my creatures are crappy enough, like I've got my one or two good creatures, but then I've got my inspector, I've got my other little guys, my spyglass siren or whatever. I'm fine bouncing those over and over and over. So I have this like mixture of like exile and creatures in my unknown creatures in my hand. I can play with my own power here. I can also intimidate my opponent into bad plays by showing them all the permanents I have in exile that I can deploy when I want. You even eventually maybe start picking up your Llanowar elves or whatever, or airbending your Llanowar elves, and then they become part of your ability to threaten more airbends.
Yeah. Have you
Uh,
ever played Venser Shaper Savant? I
yeah, the
assume
old
so.
blue card. Yeah, 4 mana
Yeah.
blue card bounces a
This
thing.
has a little bit of that feeling of you can airbend a creature or a spell, and that matters a lot, right? If you airbend it once from the
Yeah.
stack, it doesn't come into play, it doesn't get triggers.
Yeah. Maybe this also lets me flex like a mana advantage if I'm ahead on mana, because I have to be paying two in order to leave airbending, which is something we haven't played with yet. But in order to leave airbending, I have to pay 2 mana. So even though I'm bouncing things relatively easily, I still have to have mana in order to keep going.
Yeah.
If we're at relatively equal amounts of mana, I might just be dirtling my way into oblivion. But if I have more mana as the green white player, I'm able to pay those two costs pretty easily, but my opponent's still on 4 lands, so they can't do anything. Or if anything important gets airbended.
I'm really this feels the most of these cards of like I need to play this to see how it plays because it could be a 4, it could be a 10.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The only thing I worry about, this looks fun. This looks like it's interesting and does clever things. The only thing I worry about at all is a position where your opponent knows that they really can't play anything because you're just going to bounce their hand over and over again. And maybe they've got a kind of slow deck that just has a bunch of 3 drops in hand and 4 lands, and they're like, I can't do anything at all. Whenever I play, I can see the things you can airbend it with.
Yeah, exactly. Those are face up in exile. Yeah. And so you have, like, I guess you still need to be taking advantage of that somehow. Like, you got a good creature on the battlefield that's hitting them while you're tempoing out everything that they've got.
Yeah.
Or you're just drawing a bunch of cards for now, developing your mana for now. I want to have like wood elves or whatever with this. Maybe that's too slow, but it's just ability to like build up resources that I can actually cash in. And it's certainly a new play style for green white. I want to pull cards from other colors in with this.
I'm looking at what would I want to flicker of my own, which is, there's a little bit of that already, but immediately saw Eternal Witness, Skyclave Apparition, and I was like, oof, this could get painful fast for your opponent.
Mix it with other actual flicker effects, and now it's just going nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that we got the most roided airbend card before Avatar actually came out.
Yes.
the airbend demographic has been, hit squarely across the broadside with the cannon. Is another one that I'm too dumb for, or that I refuse to turn my brain on for because it's too much work.
Yeah, it certainly feels like I'll just play it and see what it does. And then I'll see someone else do something clever I didn't think of, and then I'll copy that.
Yeah, this is you watch a streamer YouTube video of a draft they did, and they just coming back from just insane games by tailwindsing people into oblivion.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, those are all our submissions. I was wondering if you could pick one or two that you were the most interested in.
That is a good question. I immediately picked out three that stood out.
Oh, give me three.
I think the very first card, Cigar's Revelation,
Hmm.
I would want to make it a little more powerful, but I think this card is very interesting and really fits in an archetype that would be fun to play. This was the one that made a token, drew your cards for how many tokens you had, and then gave your tokens +1/+1 ward. Would definitely try this out. It might need to cost 3, but other than that, I'm really into it. Hat Sigarda, the small flyer that flickers on attack and on enter and gets bigger with lands. Definitely interesting, powerful, but probably not too powerful. Blessing Sower was the creature that gave you Crucible. You can play lands out of your graveyard and also copy abilities. That might be too powerful. It might need to be only your own abilities.
Yeah.
Also interesting.
Yeah.
Definitely want to try the vanilla 10/10. And then, yeah, those are the ones that stood out the most. A couple at the end, like Llanowar, Choose You, and Tailwinds, are very interesting, and I would try for sure, but they're not quite as obvious. It's easy to analyze and to be as clear wins.
Yeah, yeah. You're very open-minded. You were basically on board with every card we talked about. Like, I'd like to see this cast. Yeah, so we got a lot of cool cards with this and a lot of kind of crazy things, I guess. I don't know. Like, people really went deep to design some sweet cards for us to talk about.
Absolutely. These are very exciting to read through. Very fun.
Before we get out of here, though, I want to tell everyone, remind people we have Mocktober. That's design a card a day. We got a whole prompt list of just design your. Today, our prompt was sequence. Design a card based off of the word sequence, just inspired by it. It could be in the title. It could just be care about sequencing in Magic, whatever else. So Mocktober, just jump in the channel, drop your card in there, look at other people's cards, say hi. If you want a challenge to work on, we've got our monthly challenge. And this month it's Rocktober. Rocktober, I don't know. Design a rhino that would fit in a graveyard set. So the rocks from Alara.
Of course.
Give us a rhino, but a rhino that for some reason is a little graveyard compatible. When you think of rhinos in Magic, do you think of rocks? Do you think of siege rhino? What do you?
Yeah, definitely. There's Rock's Warmonk from the original shards, the Bant 3/4 lifelink, which is very outclassed by now, but I quite enjoyed casting that.
Yeah. They probably have to be a little bit big, right? Your rocks can't be a 1/2. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
There was the one that stopped your opponent's combat step. Was that a rocks?
Oh yeah, maybe, yeah. Stonehorn Dignitary.
That's the one.
There you go.
That is a rhino. That card was interesting, to say the least. Something they probably shouldn't have put on a card, but made a lot of cool build rounds.
Yeah, they found an effect that they did and that people still play in Commander or whatever, that they probably would never use that effect again.
Yep.
When this enters, target opponent skips their next combat phase, which is kind of okay on its own, but flicker everything else, like, we don't want to be skipping that many combat phases.
Even in Standard, there are ways to really make your opponent get angry at you.
Yeah. There's the original rocks, which is not like a rhino person. It's just a messed up looking rhino that can deal damage as though it weren't blocked.
That design really, really resonated with people as well, I think, because
the original rocks, yeah.
Well, the Thorn Elemental, the one that could deal damage to the player. A lot of older players really love that card, remember it, and say that was very fun. And Rocks was like, "Hey, what if we made it regenerate? So they can't even kill it." And like by today's standards, this card is terrible, but it was exciting.
You had that green player pride when you play Rocks, and
yeah.
We also do a couple bonus points if you want some more kind of jumping off points. Rhino is kind of a vague thing for us to tell you to design. So we've got Roxanne. Turn on the red light. Ken mentioned red as a color, but not red mana. We're thinking Alara, your red creatures have, as long as you control a red creature, get that Roxanne bonus point. For the nerds, we've got Roxas. The card name is an anagram, Roxas. Do you know what Rox is this? Do you know what this was a reference to?
No.
Okay, so in Kingdom Hearts, the RPG that's like Disney plus like Final Fantasy,
Okay.
they're like evil versions of the main characters whose names are like anagrams but with the letter X. So
I see.
Sora is the main character, and Roxas is like the edgy evil version of Sora that they have
That
to
makes sense.
contend with. If you're looking for some name inspiration, give us either an anagram or an anagram with an extra X in it. Make it extra edgy for me. And then we've got Rock Candy. We just had an episode about Once Upon a Galaxy, and they had a new card they were previewing when we had Alexis on a couple episodes ago. Inspired by that, have your Rhino interact with treasure or food. That feels kind of Rhino-y, right? Like we've got the Capenna Rhino people.
Yep.
Give us some treasure or food. Either they make tokens or care about tokens, something like that. All that's due October 31st, so you got until the end of October. And that's about it for the episode for the week. Hop on the Discord. That's where all the action is, Mocktober, design challenges, everything else. And thanks so much for coming on. This was a great app.
Yeah, this was a great time. Do it anytime.
I play a decent amount of cube, but there's something about the frequent cuber where they just know looking at a card, is this good enough? Is this not good enough? Am I excited by this?
I have it. Yeah, am I excited? I would prepare to be wrong about many things.
Fair enough. But you at least have a strong opinion on it.
Yes.
But anyhow, yeah, it was great to have you on. Is there anything you want to tell people about? The cube list we'll have in the show notes. Anything else you want to tell people about?
No, not much this time. Just
All
busy
right.
with work, so not a lot going on elsewhere.
If you need to find me on the Discord at Tim F. Riley. And thanks everyone for listening.